once-in-a-lifetime soundtrack to Milwaukee Brewers baseball.
Swings, and there it is! A base hit in the right center. He's done it. 3,000 for Robin.
This is special ESPN Wisconsin coverage of Bob Uecker.
He's ready and delivers. Morgan, a smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Gomez. Around third. A throw, and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on.
Here's Gabe Neitzel and Tom Cotroneo.
It's going to be a tough couple of hours, days. But I think it's important, as we were just listening to Wilde and Tausch as well, that we celebrate somebody that we're never going to come across again. Somebody that was the voice of a baseball team for 50-plus years and is that through line and that connection for so many people. And for so many people that never even knew him. I'm one of those people. I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Dominic Cotroneo as we're going to be with you here until 2 o'clock and the start of KBN on ESPN Wisconsin. I met Bob a couple of times, Dom. Never really, had a chat with him, never really got to know him. But as a kid who has spent 38, almost 39 years in Wisconsin, my entire life here, I've known nothing other than Bob Uecker when it comes to baseball, something that I love and something that so many other people love.
Well, you said that earlier as well to one of our other teammates here. It's like, well, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're 35 or 75. You kind of only know Bob Uecker. And to be the last of his kind, to be 50-plus years in one place. There's the story of the Yankees and Steinbrenner trying to take him away, and we want you to be the Yankees guy. And this is the peak of his powers.
Yeah.
This is, movie star, Belvedere, Johnny Carson, all of it. And he's nope. Always came back to Milwaukee, always came back to baseball. It's hard to sit and try to make a point about Bob Uecker and just sit back and smile about the lives he touched. And it's one of those things that I think it's very important to note that Bob was a player that happened to be good at broadcasting, not a broadcaster that happened to know a little bit about baseball. And I think that distinction was very important to Bob, that he was always, remember, he played in the show. Doesn't matter how self-deprecating he was about that career in the show. He played in the show. He played with Hall of Famers. He won a World Series. And, man, I just rewatched the Hall of Fame speech from 2003 once again, and every single bit that he did plays today. Every single one of them. He was one of one, needless to say, the best to ever do it in his style. It goes 1A, Vin Scully, 1B, Bob Uecker, and there is no debate beyond that.
And they did it so differently. And the other thing that makes Bob one of one, as I've had these last couple of hours to think about it, Dom, yes, him and Vin Scully, and Vin started when he was like in his 20s, and the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn for crying out loud. But for Bob to do this for 50 years, but how many other broadcasters have as many touch points as Bob does? Like, you go on your social media timeline, whether it's X, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, you're going to find so many different people telling stories, whether it's Al Michaels telling stories about Bob and him and Howard Cosell, or, he was on Johnny Carson God knows how many times. He was on a sitcom, for crying out loud. Like, he was one of the stars of a sitcom, and he has all these touch points. He's a baseball Hall of Famer. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. He transcended so many different things and had all these touch points, and we were all fortunate here in the state of Wisconsin that ultimately he would always come back to us, and he became the soundtrack of so many summers and so many connections that families have through Bob and his storytelling and his broadcasting. That's what makes him one of one. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if, again, I met him a couple of times. I don't know if I'm sitting here if Bob Uecker isn't the play-by-play voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. And he's that good. And I'm growing up listening to him. Oh, I want to do that. That seems like fun. because that's how I wanted to get in. I wanted to be a baseball broadcaster, right? I was fortunate enough to do it for a handful of years for the Madison Mallards, and my career path took a different way. But that's what I wanted to do at first. That's why I wanted to get into sports, because my love of baseball. And if I trace it all the way back, I can probably trace it all the way back to being a kid, listening to Bob, and just all those summers of having that through line. Baseball broadcasters, and this is no offense, because we got other great broadcasters in for a lot of the different teams we have here in the state of Wisconsin. We're very, very fortunate. But because baseball is daily in the summer, especially when you're a kid, right? Like you've got summers off, and it just creates this through line, and it creates this connection that it's hard to replicate in other sports, right? Wayne Larrivee is a tremendous broadcaster for the Packers. They have 17 games over the course of a handful of months, where with Bob, it was every single day. And there's a routine and a comfort in that. And because baseball is what it is, we all feel like we got to know Bob because he did it for 50 years. But because there's a lot of downtime in baseball, Bob got to show off his personality, who he was, his sense of humor, and man, the way he could connect with everyone here, not just in Milwaukee, but the state of Wisconsin, that's a hard thing to do.
In the humility of it all, I think Milwaukee kept him grounded in a way. And he always was proud to be Milwaukee's son, if you will, and was always saying, I'm staying here in Milwaukee. And then when the Braves had signed him, he was honored to be his hometown team and Milwaukee public schools. I mean, this man is proud to be a Milwaukee native and gone, obviously, from our lives. But at the same time, you felt that passion and that energy, because sometimes when you're a fan listening to any game, right? If I'm listening to a Colorado Rockies game tonight, I don't have a connection there. But if somebody in Denver was listening to Bob Uecker calling Brewers baseball, there's something clicked. And you can't quite put your finger on what it was. But man, there was something magic. There was a twinkle. There was just something a little more with Bob. And I know you didn't really get the chance to know him. I don't want to sit here and say like we were best friends, but calling him a colleague for the 4 years I've been here now it's insane. I as a baseball nerd and a nut, as somebody that when I first met him, I'll tell the story quickly, is that 2021 was my first season here with the Brewers, and I wasn't on the air yet. I was still working on the television side, but remember 2021, nobody was traveling still, and there's a lot of empty space in the ballparks and everything, but we finish a home game, and because of the protocols and everything, we have to walk far away and go down to the special elevator, whatever. And I'm walking with Brewers voice Brian Anderson. And I hadn't met Bob yet because, we're all being careful in 2021 at that time. And elevator door opens. There's Bob. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah, here's a moment. I know I met Bob when I was younger, but that's like 13 years old. Sure. That's different. That's spring training. Everyone's in a different mood. But I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm about to be in an elevator with Brian Anderson and Bob Uecker. Don't mess this up. And Bob couldn't have been more gracious, and BA was very kind with his introduction to me to him, and began a small friendship of Bob and I. And I always just sort of admired from afar. I just watched Bob interact with everybody. Everybody always wanted a piece of Bob. And I think the greatest thing about Bob, especially with the players and with the media and everything, was that he made a piece of his time for them too. He understood. He got it. And I think that as I remember my last moments with Bob was in the booth at the end of Game 3 last year. And I think of Robin, I think of Judy, I think of Bob Jr., I think of Sue Ann, I think of everybody who still was in his life at that point. But, man, there was a heavy air that day, and we all knew. And the day has arrived, unfortunately, and I just know that Bob is healthy again, and I know he's chopping it up with all those big leaguers up there in heaven right now. And they're they're gathering around because he's got all the best stories. Mm-hmm. And you had that feeling the way that, especially when you saw someone like Christian Yelich, the way he was talking and reacting after that Game 3 in the locker room. But we want to be here today, and we've reached out to a handful of people. We're going to have some people sharing some great stories, including
longtime Brewers radio engineer Kent Sommerfeld is going to be coming up in just a little bit. But I do want to get out on the phone lines here to Mike in Menominee Falls. Mike, a friend and a golfing buddy of Bob. Mike, thank you so much for calling in and being willing to kind of share a couple of thoughts.
I think, let me on. I've been listening to everybody and all the people that have been basically crying. They don't even know the guy. And I've had a chance. I was an elected guy in our community for a long time, and so I don't know if anybody knew, but Bob Uecker has lived in Menominee Falls exclusively since 1962. He bought a small 3-bedroom, bath-and-a-half ranch out in a very rural part of the community. He stayed there from 62 until 1993. He came in front of my committees in the building area, and it was a closed session. There's Bob. What are you doing here? I mean, he said, I'm going to build a new house. It's a gate right on the North Hills Country Club property area. And so I got to know him really well because he built himself a very nice home for he and Judy. And he's just a great guy. So as time goes on, his next door neighbor happens to be one of my very best friends and my golfing partner with 2 other people in the Lombardi Classic for like 10 years straight. And so on Fridays, it was just the playing participants and a celebrity, and allowed the celebrity not to have to worry about signing autographs and all the other stuff. So Bob, because being a next-door neighbor of the Schraders, he was our golf partner for 6 straight years on a Friday. And I'll tell you what, this guy was amazing. What you see on TV, that's Bob. He was the most down-to-earth, friendly, gracious guy. And when he'd slice one, all the 4 of us would just get up in a circle in front of him and say, just a little outside. And he'd laugh his butt off. And he was the kind of guy that didn't want to be showy. When he came into North Hills, he was very discreet, didn't make a big in the entrance because he didn't have to, because Bob was Bob. And he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And Judy came along several times, and she's had her bouts with the problem of cancer as well. And he's just the most gracious, magnificent, nicest person. And with all of his success, everybody's told about all the people he has touched in his life. When you met Bob the first time, he was the first one to tell a joke about how stupid he was or how he made a clumsy move or whatever it was. He was the most deprecating person I've ever met, and he's the most gracious and honest and forthright people that you could probably ever imagine in your life. And he is going to be sorely missed by me, and a lot of other people have had a really an intimate relationship with the guy, and he's more than a treasure, and he's more than one of a kind. And I'm an old man, too, and very difficult not to hold back tears talking about him because he's not going to be with us. Although if we keep thinking about him, we keep talking about him, he'll never leave us. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to let you know about a guy that's touched me pretty much a lot of ways in my life and given me an opportunity to have a great time with a great person. Thanks much, guys.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Mike. And when I think of North Hills, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved with the Vince Lombardi Golf Classic that's been going on out there for over 50 years at this point. And Bob was always one of the celebrities to participate. And even these last few years when, the health maybe prevented him from swinging a golf club, he'd still go out there and be a part of the foursome that was, put up the price to be able to play with Bob and at least ride along for 9 holes and be Bob Uecker and still give people that experience. And I know there are a lot of community events that he didn't publicize them all, but he outside of baseball, he also did a lot for the greater Milwaukee community as well.
So much. And I think of his family has been struck by tragedy in the past, too. I think of all those causes that he's helped with, specifically with the ALS Foundation. And I think of all the people that he understood his stature in this city. He understood the impact one little thing he could do when he would appear at a banquet or when he would be asked to be a guest speaker at something. He'd always be willing and able to help out those in need. And I think that's what is going to be the main memories of Bob Uecker.
Longtime radio engineer Kent Sommerfeld going to be joining us and sharing his memories and stories of Bob Uecker as we continue on ESPN Wisconsin.
Rest in peace to a legend. Bob Uecker has passed away at the age of 90. Celebrate the life of Mr. Baseball right here on ESPN Wisconsin. UW Credit Union presents the Student Athlete of the Week, supporting local student athletes as they grow on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. UW Credit Union is here for every U. Learn more at uwcu.org. Here's Ashton Rotman with the UW Credit Union Student Athlete of the Week.
This week's UW Credit Union Student Athlete of the Week is Racine Lutheran boys basketball player Sam Pitroff. The 6'4" junior averaging 17.4 points per game this season, up a tick from his sophomore season, which saw him average just over 15 points a game. And of those games, a couple of big ones, back-to-back wins last week against Martin Luther and Dominican. 38 total points in those two games. The combo guard turning it over less than 2 times a game as well for the now 12-0 Racine Lutheran Crusaders. Pitroff, as a sophomore, finished second team All-Metro Classic Conference and is looking to top that with his 2024-25 campaign. Congratulations to this week's UW Credit Union Student Athlete of the Week, Racine Lutheran Crusaders boys basketball player Sam Pitroff.
What happens when you mix a 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year with a Packers Hall of Famer?
I'm not going to get into the Kringle turnover game, so that's what it needs to be. I think his legs. Yeah.
Wilde and Tausch, presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Like the pastry
Are you guys being
turnovers.
serious? You guys can't put two.
I got it. I did not get it.
They don't call themselves Racine Danish
I'm
turnover.
sorry. Sometimes I wonder about you two, man.
Catch him from 9 to noon right here on 94.5 ESPN, the Wisconsin On Demand app, and at ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Elevate your game day gear or any outfit with official merchandise from the Milwaukee Bucks Pro Shop. From authentic jerseys to exclusive apparel and accessories, the Bucks Pro Shop has everything you need to showcase your fandom wherever you go. Cheer the Deer to victory with authentic Milwaukee Bucks items. Visit us at the Bucks Pro Shop at Fiserv Forum or Bayshore Mall, or shop online at shop.bucks.com.
Who's looking for a deal? Well, Cousin Subs has a better deal just for you. Cousin's new $10 meal deals are now available online only. Choose between a 7.5-inch ham and provolone, turkey breast, or veggie sub, a bag of chips or regular fry, a regular fountain beverage, and cookie at cousinsubs.com or on the mobile app for just $10. Now that's a better deal. Cousin Subs, we believe in better. Available at participating locations only. Offer subject to change without notice.
Is it time to buy an engagement ring?
Or a big anniversary diamond?
Kessler's has diamonds that come from diamond mines.
And we also have diamonds that come from plasma chambers.
When you see the size of the diamond you can afford when you look at our high-tech newborn created diamonds,
you're going to be happy, happy, happy.
And with approved credit, our financing plans make anything possible.
Our selection of engagement rings is beyond compare.
And our custom design department can modify any ring in any way you choose.
Anyone who says they can give you a better ring
or a better diamond
or a better price
has never been to Kessler's.
And our miraculous no small print warranty says,
if you bought it at Kessler's, it's guaranteed.
It's just that simple.
And all maintenance is free forever.
No charge.
Yes, it really is that miraculous.
You found a partner you want to share your life with.
When you're ready to celebrate,
we've got a diamond for that.
Find the Kessler's nearest you at KesslersDiamonds.com.
Stay up to date on the Green and Gold all off season. The Green and Gold Fix podcast is brought to you by Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Luxury stay, elite play, unwind in sophisticated comfort. Win big, dine, and experience the events in Milwaukee.
If only life had a remote control, you could pause or rewind. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Rest in peace, Mr. Baseball. The voice of the Milwaukee Brewers, Bob Uecker, has passed away. Celebrate the life of a legend right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
Remembering a legend today here on ESPN Wisconsin. I'm Gabe Nutzel along with Dominic Cotroneo. Bob Uecker passing away today at the age of 90. We welcome in somebody that I didn't know, but I knew who he was because I listened to Brewers games for so long. And of course, you hear this guy's name as part of those Brewers broadcasts. So when I was fortunate enough to join the Marquette broadcast team and doing the pregame and halftime like I've done for the past 10 years. Wait, I get to work with the Kent Sommerfeld? That guy, Kent Sommerfeld? Of course, we welcome in Kent to the show. Kent, thank you so much for the time and jumping on, because everybody knows who you are, even if because of Bob saying your name for all those years.
Well, I must have made a lot of mistakes that he had to get on me for all those years. He mentioned my name, but no, thanks for having me on, guys. Unfortunately, under these circumstances, but a sad day for a lot of people. I mean, in the state of Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, and around baseball all around. I mean, Bob has meant so much to so many people and left so many memories with people, whether it be stories and time spent, time shared together. He was truly, truly one of a kind, and he will be sorely, sorely missed, but greatly appreciated for the time that he was here, the time that he provided to Milwaukee and the fans and the baseball people, all the things in baseball and what he did, and the things he did off the field. I mean, he did a lot of stuff that really wasn't recognized because he didn't want it to be recognized. He just did it quietly, whether it was, I remember times when he had a heart issue, and he would call heart patients, and he would, hey, how you doing? And walk them through it, saying you'll be okay. He didn't have to do that. He did that on his own, privately. And he didn't want any recognition for it, but that's who he was. And, all the other stuff, whether it's, Make-A-Wish Foundation, the veteran stuff, he was big on veterans and police and stuff. He had served in the Army. So it's just an amazing life that Bob had. I mean, he had many, many moons in his life, and he lived truly, truly a rich, rich life.
I mean, you two go back to '86, if I'm not mistaken, right, Kent?
Correct.
When you first arrived, and take me into that first day. You've set everything up, you've triple checked it right, and the first time that Bob slams that cough button, and you're holding your breath, making sure you set everything else up right?
Yeah, you're making sure that cough button works. As you guys know, those cough buttons can be lifesavers. And for people listening, a cough button mutes the mic if you want to say something off the air, which might be a little colorful, to say the least. That is muted, and Bob had used it, and many, many announcers use it. But I remember the first meeting, Dom, actually. Here I was living in Abilene, Texas, working at a NBC television station, and got the call to come over to work for the Brewers. And, I was a Brewers fan growing up. I grew up in the Milwaukee area. I remember going to games as a kid at County Stadium, sitting in the bleachers for $2. I remember a game where Don Money hit a grand slam against the Yankees, and Billy Martin was the manager, and it was a heavy downpour late in the game, and Don hits a home run. Billy claimed he called a timeout, and he got the umpires to agree with it, so they erased the grand slam that Don Money hit, and the Brewers ended up losing the game. But the first meeting I ever had with Bob, he sat me down, and we were just talking. I never met him before, and this was even before we had a game together. We were down in spring training having a dinner, which was an annual thing. Before spring training ever started in game starts, we would have an annual dinner with all the announcers. And at that time, it was Pat Hughes, myself, and Uke. And we were at a place called Don and Charlie's. I'm sure, Don, you know it well, and so do a lot of baseball fans. It was a big, big baseball restaurant for a long time. And, one of the first things he said, he made some jokes and laughed. And then he said, you know what, we're going to work together. We're going to have a job to do, but we're going to have a lot of good times along the way. We're going to entertain, and we're going to have a lot of laughs. And even through last year, and it would have been this year, had he been here, the laughs would have still been continuing to this day, and they always will be. I mean, he just had an innate sense of making people laugh. His humor, whether it was self-deprecating humor for himself, in his act on stage, or whether it was, just talking to people, his humor was unbelievable. He may be the quickest witted man I ever met to come up with something just off the cuff, just reactionary to a word or something someone else said to him, whether it was in an interview or just talking to him. It was unbelievable. But he said, we're going to have fun and we're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a good ride. And I was still on the ride with him for 39 years until today.
Kent Sommerfeld, longtime Brewers radio engineer, joining us here on ESPN Wisconsin. And on this Carbless Talking text line, I've got somebody who brought this up. And I was not listening during this game, so I must have missed this. But Matt says, I remember when Bob found out that Kent Sommerfeld's high school nickname was Bones. He questioned Kent during the game. OMG, so funny. I'll never forget that. What was Bob asking you after he found out that your high school nickname was Bones?
Well, he really wanted to know the source of it. And, it was just because I was a smaller person, so it really, it was Bones because that was short for something else. And I don't think I need to go into detail.
Nope.
But I was playing in a basketball game. It was at a high school charity game. It was called Key Club, and there was a big fundraiser we did. And I was a sophomore at the time. And sophomores usually didn't play in the last hour of the game because that was reserved for all the upperclassmen. So, they kept putting me in the game, and I'm like, what the heck you guys keep putting me in the game for? I'm not supposed to be playing at this point in the game. This is for all the big shots, But they kept putting me in the game because they wanted to use a line, using the name Bones, which is a name for something else. And when I made the shot, of course, they said, erection by something or another, and then the crowd broke up. The PA guy said it, and he heard that story, and he wanted me to tell. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell that story over the Brewers radio network, But he loved it because now he had something, to go on me and had on me, and he had multiple nicknames for me. I mean, he had nickname after nickname, and that was an endearing quality. If he gave you a nickname, you sort of knew you were in his club a little bit. And that he liked you when he gave you a nickname. So he gave me a bunch of nicknames, and, still to this day, he would call me, oh, hey, how you doing, Slime? How you doing? That was just one of them. There were others, but all colorful, of course, and delivered only in the way he could deliver them, too, because he just had a way of doing that. I talked about his humor and his timing and his wit. And he was just, like I said, one of a kind, a very fortunate to have worked with him this long. And fortunate to be a friend to him and to his family, Judy, his wife, and his kids, Steve and Sue and Leanne and Bob Jr. and his wife, Kathy, and daughter, Emily, and just good people.
Great people. And I think of everybody in the booth that last time after Game 3 ending the way it did, but just having everybody around for that final game, Kent, and just being a fly on the wall for that scene. I think that was obviously wanted to win the game, of course, but to have the people that loved him most around him in what turned out to be his final game, I think is what was most important about saying goodbye to Bob Uecker last season.
Oh, absolutely. And Jeff Levering's tribute at the end of the game in the post-game show was very, very moving. And, so many people, Dom and Gabe last year, wanted the Brewers to win a World Series for Uecker. They knew Uecker was, 90 years old. They didn't know how much longer Bob was going to do it until most of us thought he'd be back for year 91, his 91st year. But they didn't win it. But that was the locker room sentiment. You talked to people after the game when they got eliminated, and you heard players, whether it was Christian Yelich or even some of the young guys like Mitchell and Frelick and other guys, they all wanted to win a World Series, and they wanted to win it for Uecker. And that tells you volumes about his relationship. Bob was really one of the guys down in the locker room. He had his own locker. He was a guy who was down there every day. Bob did his prep work by sitting there and talking with the guys before the game, at their lockers, and in the dugout before games, with the manager and with the press corps. I mean, he was one of the guys, and he threw BP when he was younger all the time, when the Brewers were back at County Stadium. So he was just one of the guys, and it's a sad day that a lot of the guys down there lost a friend, and he could communicate with anybody. And I was saying this to somebody else today, and that when Bob met somebody, he made that person feel like they'd been a friend for a long time. He made a connection with that individual, and that individual would walk away saying like, yeah, hey, I sort of feel a little closer to you, or I seem like I knew him a little bit more because he made him feel that way. And he was able to make connections with people, and he made connections with guys who were old-timers in the locker room, guys who had been around for 40, 50 years, and even the young guys, when all the new young guys who came into the game and the Brewers team, you know, they didn't know who Bob Uecker was. Some of these young guys, they had no idea what his career and his past. They knew he was big with the Milwaukee Brewers, that he was their announcer, but they had no idea that he played for 8 years, you know, that he was a very good defensive catcher, baseball player, maybe not the best hitter, but, you know, today he might have been a very successful hitter. Who knows the way the game is thinned out or how many more players are playing the game, you know. He could have been a very successful hitter. But he was able to connect with guys young and old, and it was really cool to see when you saw that dynamic between him and the players. And he was always a player's guy, always a player's guy. And, you know, he would tell us about announcing games, and he would tell all his partners and announcing the games, you know, you hear guys that are sort of getting on players and sort of ripping players because they made an error or something. And Bob would say, hey, you know what? Guys make errors. It's human. You know, that's just part of the game. I don't need to rip on a player or anything. I can point out that he didn't make the play, but that was from his player's mentality because of the fact that he played the game. He knew how tough it was to play the game. And he just said, you can still point out what you need to point out, and you're disappointed that this so-and-so didn't make a play, but you don't need to get on guys or go on and on about someone not making the play. You know, he would always say the players are the guys who know or feel the worst about the fact that they didn't locate a pitch or they didn't make a play or they didn't get the big hit. They feel worse than any of the fans. So he had a great perspective from that way, and that's how he broadcasted, and that's how it came across. You know, when he on the radio and in people's living rooms and people's garage and people's headphones when they're cutting the lawn, you know, he's the fabric of the broadcast in people's lives. And that's why he was so beloved, because he was part of people's lives through that broadcast.
Kent Sommerfeld, longtime Brewers radio engineer, joining us here on ESPN Wisconsin. What's your go-to Bob story?
You know what? There's so many. I mean,
that's why I asked. There's got to be a go-to one, right?
No, you know what?
Or you rotate them around.
No, the go-to thing for me, for Bob, and it wasn't so much a story, but it was a call. It was a game, the Easter Sunday game, when Dale Swaim and Rob Deere hit the home runs, and they came back against the Texas Rangers. Just enthusiasm in his voice, the way he called those two calls, and the way they came back. That was during Team Streak. You know, when they won a bunch of the games to start the year, you know, they had won 12 in a row. George Webbs gave out hamburgers. It was 13 in a row. It was just an amazing start to a season, you know, and I vividly just remember that call and the excitement and the fun he had doing that game. And he just loved being at the ballpark. Bob's place and his heaven on earth was the ballpark, the people, the relationships, being at the ballpark. He didn't want to be anywhere else, you know, and he had chances to go elsewhere. I mean, I remember George Steinbrenner tried to recruit him to go to New York. And you know, he told George, you know, no, I'm a Milwaukee guy. I love Milwaukee. I love the people here. I love the Milwaukee. I love the Braves. I love the Brewers. I don't want to go anywhere. But George was recruiting him hard a couple times to come to New York. And could you imagine what his persona would have been in New York and how much bigger? I mean, he was big already, but imagine he would have been way, way bigger had he been broadcasting in New York. He would be unbelievably legendary. He's already a legend and an icon, especially here in Milwaukee and in baseball circles. I mean, just the things he did, not just in baseball, but out of baseball, whether it's the Johnny Carson shows. And Johnny Carson told him, and he told us this, Bob said, you know what? Johnny Carson told me one time that anytime I came out of that curtain, he started laughing. He couldn't stop laughing because he met Bob, and the first time he did him, he had no idea really all his background, but he made him laugh so hard. So every time he peeled that curtain back and started walking on stage with Johnny would be in a laughing jack. And he said Johnny told him that was he's like one of the few, if not the only guys that ever would make him laugh like that as soon as he saw him in person. And he just did that in Mr. Belvedere, Major League, all the stuff he did, the Miller Lite commercials. When you think about all that he's done and the rich life he had, you're like, man, I was thankful to be around some of it and enjoy the ride. And, it's been a blast, and I'll miss him. I'll miss him a lot.
Let's go ahead and hear those calls that Kent was just talking about from Team Streak, Easter Sunday, 1987.
Gantner, there he goes. The pitch, a swing and a fly ball, right field and deep. Get up, and get out of here. Gone for Swaim, and they've done it again. 12 in a row on a 2-run blast by Swaim to win it. Oh, my goodness. Holy cow, do you believe it?
Kent, thank you so much, bud, for coming on and sharing your thoughts of a dear friend of yours.
Yeah, very dear friend, and our condolences go out to his family, Judy, and the rest of the family, Bob and Kathy, and Steve, who's not with us anymore, and Leanne, who's not with us, but Sue is still with us. Our hearts go out to the family, and I know it's a tough time for them, but we're all grateful for the friendship, the memories, and we just are just thinking of them and hope the peace and comfort is brought to them over time. And we'll just forever remember Bob here in Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin and around baseball, and be thankful for who he was and what he meant to so many people.
Thanks so much, Kent. Appreciate you, man.
You got it, Dom. Gabe, thank you.
Kent Sommerfeld, longtime radio engineer, producer of the Brewers Radio Network, joining us here to share his thoughts of his friend, Bob Uecker, who passed away and was announced earlier today at the age of 90. We'll continue to take your reaction, your calls, your texts, and share our thoughts and stories as we continue on ESPN Wisconsin.
Celebrating the life of the legendary Bob Uecker. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. This is special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin.
Kevin Moret for Mentality. Guys, most new clients start with just 1/3 the free testosterone they need, and that puts you at an unfair disadvantage. No matter how hard you push yourself, it's an uphill battle. Free testosterone drives everything, your energy, strength, and metabolism, and without it, nothing works. At Mentality, our doctors restore that balance so your body works the way it should. Energy comes back, fat burns off, and you feel like yourself again. Make this year different. Visit mentalityhealth.com/radio for a special New Year offer. That's mentalityhealth.com/radio.
Sweetie, come here. Don't worry. I see a lot of patients with the exact same thing.
Ever since the ice skating rink went in next door?
Or is it more than
Dr. Clark's business is heating up.
So many patients need my help. How will I find time to see all of them?
They need to hire a scheduler, stat.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Life's busy, and Quick Trip gets it. Whether you're grabbing fresh coffee, a bakery treat, or a quick meal, Quick Trip is your go-to for quality and fast service. From clean restrooms to fresh groceries, easy meal options, and guaranteed fuel, we make your day easier. Plus, enjoy perks like free ATMs, free air for your tires, and sweet rewards with the Quick Rewards program. Everything you need in one stop, and always a friendly, see you next time, Quick Trip, where your day gets easier and better.
It started with a prediction.
Go out there and play basketball and win.
And how many games?
6.
It became the culture.
Chance of Bucks in 6.
Being a Bucks fan means you live and breathe Bucks in 6. Brandon Jennings created the prophecy. Tune into Behind the Bucks, the story of Brandon Jennings on the Bucks Plus audio network. Behind the Bucks is presented by Gallagher, your trusted insurance broker and HR and benefits consultant. Available now on Bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, and streaming wherever you get your podcasts.
That's for the culture.
Hi, Drew and Jonathan Scott here, reminding you that a lot of life's firsts are better with help from American Family Insurance. Like your first home expansion, or your first big lightning strike, There's a first for everything. Get the right home policy at the right price with the right help from American Family's agents. Life's better when you're under American Family's roof. Insure carefully, dream fearlessly. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. American Family Mutual Insurance Company SI and its operating company 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Do you want to have more fun watching the NFL playoffs? Try playing Sleeper Picks. Just download the Sleeper app today and pick more or less on at least 2 players' projected stats. You can win up to 100 times your cash. For a limited time, Sleeper has a special offer. New users have to just play $5 and they'll receive $55 in free entries. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code BRAD, B-R-A-D. Must be 18 years or older. Promo code, location, and other restrictions apply. Minimum deposit $25. See terms of use for details. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help.
Celebrating the life of the voice of Brewers baseball. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. You're listening to special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin.
Tying run at the plate. 4-2 New York. The pitch. A double play ball hit to Lindor, and the throw is going to wind up with a double play. And the New York Mets, after coming from behind with a big 4-run ninth inning rally. Wow.
We didn't know it at the time, but those were the final outs that were called by Bob Uecker on the Brewers radio network. Longtime voice of the Brewers, passing away at the age of 90. Gabe Neitzel, Dominic Cotroneo with you as we celebrate the life of Bob Uecker. Still plenty of great guests coming, and you can share your thoughts on what Bob meant to you, to your family, at 800-990-3776. I saw this on social media. I want to run this by you. So our friend Dan Schaefer, to give him credit from the recombobulation area, tweeted this out. We should rename the former Miller Parkway to Bob Uecker Boulevard. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right?
Dodgers did that Vince Scully Avenue.
Like, this is that there's, and I know they used to be Miller Parkway, and now, you know, some of it's renamed, some of it's not renamed. Let's just all come together in Bob Uecker Boulevard, and it can be that forever.
I'm in. Yeah. Say less. That's not something that needs a lot of debate to get it done.
No, you just need someone to, whoever in power that can get that done. Let's get on that right away. And I know, seeing some of the stuff from social media as well. I know we were talking with Alex Strofe, our teammate here at ESPN Milwaukee, who went to the ballpark, a tribute memorial right in front of his statue. A lot of people showing up with flowers, hats, couple of Miller Lite cans I think I saw there as well of people just trying to figure out how to cope with this, because again, it's just he meant so many things to so many people despite not personally knowing him. You felt like you did.
Well, like, remember when he had to take time off for his heart surgery, and that first game back and the crowd and the applause, and when they finally showed him on the Jumbotron, I wasn't living here at the time, and I remember that. I remember seeing that connection of just for missing him for a few weeks when he went through his ordeal with his heart, and just seeing and even this year on opening day, right? He worked the home opener on that Tuesday, sold out crowd. It was awesome. As soon as he saw himself on the Jumbotron, they only ever show Bob on the Jumbotron once a year, and it's opening day. He gets up, he does his thing, and the crowd is incredible. And then I think of 2023. Yeah, 2023 wild card, threw out the first pitch, threw it to Bob Jr., that thunderous roar, or when they were honoring him in 2022 because they didn't get a chance to in 2021 and 2020 and all that, they kept pushing back, and then he put it in a pitching machine.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, he came out for the first pitch. And you're things. And you should have seen it coming, because he's got a curtain over the pitching machine on the pitcher's mound, and he comes out waving at everybody. And then, I mean, it was classic Bob Uecker to have a pitching machine out there, throw that in there so he could fire a strike to the plate.
Oh, my gosh, it was so great. And I think one of the cool things about covering the Brewers, obviously, is everybody always asks, how's Bob doing? What's going on with Bob? How's Uke? And I think one of the things that Bob did so well, and I mean this in a complimentary sense, is he kept to himself in a way that was, he'll let you know if he needs you. He's good. And if you want to go say hello, go say hello. And he understood in the later stages of his career that people were going to want to spend more time with him. And I think of earlier this year, Bob Costas came by to do some content with Uke and longtime partners back in the World Series. And it's funny, you can go back and watch the 1982 World Series on YouTube. And Bob's in there, Garagiola in there, and Bob Costas, as a 20-something fresh out of Syracuse, is there doing it as well. And just think of all the memories that those two guys shared. And here's Bob Costas coming back to Milwaukee to say hello to his old friend and just getting a few minutes with him, just what it meant to him as a young broadcaster, right? We think of Bob Costas as one of the standards of the game. Well, he credits Bob Uecker for his upbringing, right? The tree of Bob Uecker is so large. The roots go so deep, and we'll be talking to one of those roots here in a little bit with Len Casper, too. And I think of all the people that have been touched in a professional sense, from a broadcast sense, learning from Bob Uecker, the guy who didn't see himself as a broadcaster, is, I think, a beautiful thing. And he's a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, bar none. And the lives that he touched in his on-air work, whether it's, like you said, wrestling or Johnny Carson and everything but baseball, and his actual day-to-day, the people he interacted with on a daily basis, that I was lucky enough to consider myself one of those people.
Well, we have a clip with Bob Costas and Bob Uecker.
Now, here's something. It just came to mind as you were telling me this story, and we can't fill in the particulars. But if your friends show up in the booth, somebody you like, somebody you trust, right? You've been known to do parallel broadcasts. You were part of it. Yes, I was. Use the cough button. So now it's, so here's Joe Jones, utility infielder, hitting .262. Then you hit the cough button and offer some ridiculous, often off-color assessment of the situation for the amusement of the people in the booth, then release the cough button in time for the next pitch. There was an art to this.
I do that when people who don't really know they're in the booth for the first time, right? And I can, push that button down. It's right in front of me.
They think this is actually part of the broadcast.
Did you hear what he just said?
I remember one time I'm in the booth, and I would bring some friends sometimes just for the parallel show that's going on. And so I won't mention the name. It's like, so here's so-and-so, former MVP, popular with all the fans and ball players. Fat, overrated, bleepity, bleepity, bleep. Foul back to the screen.
The cough button is a godsend. It really is.
I know Norm Macdonald had very similar stories that he would tell when he made late night rounds, and that became part of the Bob Uecker lore as well.
Part of the Uecker lore too, and we all know he's funny. Okay, we all know that. That's not a take. But you bring up Norm, and I think of Norm and some of the titans of comedy in the 70s and 80s, that back then there were these roasts that weren't televised or shared or split up into a million pieces that we can watch on social media. Like, you had to be there. And every single one of those titans of comedy in that era said Bob killed. Bob was the one. Bob was the funniest one of everybody in the room. And a list of who's who that are up there doing their own bits, trying out material. And Bob was the one that always killed it. And I think of that. I think of, Norm passed a few years ago too, and they had a friendship. And I think of all of the things that maybe it was on the cutting room floor for Bob. Think of all the jokes he didn't tell and all the jokes that he had in his back pocket. I would love to see the drafts and the process of writing his Hall of Fame speech. Because again, I said it at the top of the show. I'll say it again here. If you have not watched Bob Uecker's Hall of Fame speech from 2003, every single joke still hits. He has got dozens of Hall of Famers sitting behind him, crying, laughing. I am not exaggerating. Crying, laughing. Seeing Henry Aaron, seeing Willie Mays, seeing, just the list goes on. Bud Selig there too. Everyone is just side split, hunched over. And Bob, deadpan, perfect delivery. What's so funny? What's going on? Just like, what's so funny? And it just was incredible. I just, as somebody who we're in a world of performance, if you will, and the way that he always kept it under control was amazing.
Well, here's some of that Hall of Fame speech coming up in just a little bit. We'll continue to hear from you. Call us, text us, Carbless Talk and text line 800-990-3776. Share your thoughts of the late, great Bob Uecker, passing away today at the age of 90, as we continue on ESPN Wisconsin.
Rest in peace, Mr. Baseball. The voice of the Milwaukee Brewers, Bob Uecker, has passed away. Celebrate the life of a legend right here on ESPN Wisconsin. With Wilde and Tausch, you won't miss a play.
Romeo. This 3-syllable, you have to take the O out of the equation. That's too easy.
Presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Iota, right? Not one iota.
Iota. Yeah. That's only 4 letters.
Weekdays from 9 to noon.
Let's pretend you're a first-time listener to Wilde and Tausch. What the hell is this? They're discussing syllables.
On 94.5 ESPN, the Wisconsin On Demand app, and at ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Homer here. I'm inviting you to join me starting August the 9th as we explore the many shades of Ireland with Colette Vacations, a 10-day journey filled with legendary views, historic expeditions, and unforgettable tales. Explore the historic city of Dublin, kiss the famous Blarney Stone, and stand on the spectacular cliffs of Moher. We'll also journey Ireland's breathtaking countryside and follow the stunning coastal route of the Ring of Kerry. We'll experience the daily life of an Irish family with a dairy farm visit and enjoy a taste or two at a historic whiskey distillery. We'll even stay overnight in a medieval castle. Join me for all of the experiences and so many more. All the details are online at ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com. ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com. Don't worry about the planning. Colette handles all of the details of the 10-day excursion. Your job, have the time of your life. Don't miss it. Visit ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com or text Homer to 800-990-3776. The trip of a lifetime awaits.
Coors Light presents To Chill or Not to Chill. When your friend skips your favorite song on the playlist. End the friendship. Or choose chill because that song lives rent-free in your head anyway. And you planned ahead by bringing Coors Light to the party. And the sound of that ice-cold can cracking open was music to your ears already. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Fisco is always there for your auto body care. When accidents happen, Fisco Auto Body on Forest Home in Franklin is there when you need them. Got a broken mirror? They'll take care of it. Dented bumper? Scratch paint? Fisco Auto Body will take care of it. If there's any damage you need fixed, Fisco has you covered. Their expert workmanship is guaranteed for the life of your vehicle. So stop in for all of your auto bumps and dings. Once again, you know the line. That's Fisco.
Join the roar of 18,000 Bucks fans at Fiserv Forum and be a part of the slam dunks, game-changing plays, and electrifying victories live. Witness the edge-of-your-seat action and unforgettable moments as they happen. You don't want to miss this. Grab your calendar, handpick your favorite matchups, and secure your seats for Dame time in Milwaukee and every incredible moment that comes next at Bucks.com/tickets. That's Bucks.com/tickets.
Winning in the NFL comes down to the basics, blocking and tackling. In retirement, the certainty of protection and income are the keys to success. And as a former NFL player myself, I have experience with both. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons. Having played on winning teams with the Steelers and Falcons, studying game films helped me mentally prepare for the challenges ahead. Now I star in a new Hollywood documentary called The Retirement Deception to help you visualize and prepare for your fourth quarter of life. You see, you don't retire on your nest egg, but rather the income it can produce. This film shows you exactly how to protect your retirement from stock market drops and produce more income than you thought possible. And it's free for you to view. Call 855-620-1801 right now for your free streaming code to watch The Retirement Deception. Don't risk your retirement savings at the goal line. You don't need to be risky to have a winning strategy. Call today to speak with an all-pro retirement specialist to get your free streaming code to watch The Retirement Deception. Call today. 855-620-1801. That's 855-620-1801. MitchLyonsWealth.com. Your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Rest in peace to a legend. Bob Uecker has passed away at the age of 90. Celebrate the life of Mr. Baseball right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
We
We sit below the Marlboro Man.
Hader ready again. Here it is. Swinging fly ball in the right center. Broxton is there. And they're the champions. They have done it. Celebrating at Wrigley Field. They are the champions. Oh, baby. What a way to wind it up. To celebrate in St. Louis and to celebrate here at Wrigley Field today against division rivals.
Brewers clinching the Central in Game 163. Of course, Uecker on the call, celebrating the life of Bob Uecker here on ESPN Wisconsin. I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Dominic Cotroneo. And Dom, you have mentioned a number of times that Hall of Fame speech that you have gone back and listened to and watched. I'm sure you are not alone. Let's go ahead and hear a little bit of that snippet of Bob Uecker's Hall of Fame speech from over 20 years ago.
Of all the things that I've done, this has always been number one, baseball. The commercials, the films, the television series. I could never wait for everything to get over to get back to baseball. I still, and this is not sour grapes by any means, still think I should have gone in as a player. Thank you. Thank you very much. There it is, boys. The proof is in the pudding. And to all of you baseball fans around America and any place else, for your letters, your thoughts, your kindness for all of these years. It's been a great run, but number one has always been baseball for me. No matter what else I ever did, baseball was the only way I wanted to go. I thank you very much for your attention today. Thank you for having me, and congratulations to everybody here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I mean, even when he's doing the heartfelt thanking everybody, he's got to sneak the joke in.
Of course. and it's just, I think that was one of the more anticipated speeches of that year, too, in 2003.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, everyone knew. And the Ford C. Frick Award, as broadcasters know, it's kind of had an interesting history where sometimes they have to go back and honor the guys in the 30s and 40s that were the pioneers of radio, and then it has a more modern winner, right? So when Bob won it in 2003, he was kind of sandwiched between some of those lesser-known guys, but the way that Bob just delivered it like he would any other speech, and for that matter. And when I think of Ford C. Frick Award winners, right, I mean, that's Hall of Fame, and I love the should have gone as a player joke, but he even told a story about Necro and about being his personal chaser, not his personal catcher. I just, the little things of history that you think about, and I saw this tweet earlier too, of the fact that Bob Uecker was teammates with Warren Spahn and called Jackson Churrio's games in the same lifetime. You know, Warren born in 1921, Churrio born in 2004. What a life in baseball.
Len Casper is the voice of the Chicago White Sox, but of course has roots back here in Milwaukee. He will share his thoughts on Bob Uecker as we continue. Coming up next on ESPN Wisconsin.
Celebrating the life of the legendary Bob Uecker. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. This is special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin.
Panic strikes as you realize on Wednesday that Thursday is your anniversary. The reservations being secured.
We'll see you at 8.
The gift being purchased. Yeah, you've got this. Just like Associated Bank's got you with early pay up to 2 days early on direct deposits. So even though they call you Last Minute Lisa, we'll make your last minute scrambling a bit easier. You've got this with early pay from Associated Bank. See associatedbank.com/checking or ask a banker for details. Member FDIC.
Looking for a deal? Well, Cousin Subs has a better deal just for you. Cousin's new $10 meal deals are now available online only. Choose between a 7.5-inch ham and provolone, turkey breast, or veggie sub, a bag of chips or regular fry, a regular fountain beverage, and cookie at cousinsubs.com or on the mobile app for just $10. Now that's a better deal. Cousin Subs, we believe in better. Available at participating locations only. Offer subject to change without notice.
I found a fountain of youth down there at QC Kinetics.
That's Henry Hinton, feeling like his young, active self again after treatments at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine.
I still have trouble walking down steps as I get older. I've had one treatment so far, and I can already tell a difference in my knee.
And that treatment at QC Kinetics used Henry's own natural healing properties, concentrated and placed right at the source of the pain. So Henry and patients just like him will enjoy long-term relief without surgery or downtime.
My knee is not hurting. I remember I was walking down some steps yesterday, and I thought, wow, this is not hurting when I walk down steps. I'm all in on it. I'm all in on QC Kinetics.
It's time to wind back the clock to days without constant joint pain. Start with a call to QC Kinetics today.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
Gabe Neitzel here. Catch Jen, Gabe, and Chewy mornings 7 to 9 on 94.5 ESPN, WKTI, and WKTI HD, Milwaukee.
A locally owned Good Karma brand station. Celebrating a legend.
Ryan Braun sends it to left center and deep. Get up! Get out of here! Gone for Ryan Braun. He just hit a walk-off out of here.
A once-in-a-lifetime soundtrack to Milwaukee Brewers baseball.
Swings, and there it is! A base hit in the right center. He's done it. 3,000 for Robin.
This is special ESPN Wisconsin coverage of Bob Uecker.
He's ready and delivers. Morgan a smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Gomez. Around third. A throw and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on.
Here's Gabe Neitzel and Tom Cotroneo.
So many of those great memories with Ueck on the call as fans of baseball, fans of the Milwaukee Brewers, and everybody just a little bit sadder today. But we celebrate the life of Bob Uecker, announced earlier today, passing away at the age of 90. I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Dominic Cotroneo, and we do have a couple of texts I do want to get to here. Sadler in Madison, he's been a Brave and Brewer fan. He remembers listening on the radio to Bob Uecker every Brewer game since he moved to Madison. Loved laughing at his jokes, watching him in the movie Major League, Mr. Belvedere as a child. Heart heavy right now, and for one last time, get up, get out, get out of here, gone. Rest in peace, Bob. And the great part, like, how many broadcasters, how many people in baseball, like, anytime there's going to be a home run inside that ballpark, I mean, you've got his slogan there in left field, right next to the chalet. An incredible living tribute, even though Bob is gone and not going to be part of our baseball summers and our Brewers fans' lives. But he is going to live on forever because of that iconic home run call and how it has resonated with Brewers fans for so long.
Yeah, for me, like you, I still have aspirations to call baseball. And you hear about it. I know you heard this too when you were first. So you got a home run call, kid? You got something to use? Not everybody does, but the thing that's so hard about crafting a call and crafting your own signature tagline is it's got to feel authentic. It can't feel shticky, and it never felt shticky with you. I think of, this past World Series and Joe Davis, who had the impossible shoes to fill with Vin Scully's retirement. And Joe calls a walk-off grand slam for the Dodgers in the World Series. Now, unbiased from Fox perspective, but it's a walk-off.
I mean, it's a walk-off. You're going to have excitement in the World Series.
And he channels Vin Scully's Kirk Gibson call, "She is gone." So I imagine that when that date comes, when the Brewers are back in the World Series, because that day will come, and then whomever is on the call and the Brewers hit a big home run, someone is going to deliver, get up, get out of here, gone. And that's going to be the tribute to Bob when that day comes. The Brewers will be back in the World Series, and Bob will have the best seat in the house down in the front row.
Ian texts in on that Carbless Talking text line, 800-990-3776. I'm now 38 years old. My grandpa passed away 10 years ago, but I grew up sitting in the kitchen, being able to listen to Brewers games with him, the good seasons, the bad seasons. When an exciting play would happen or a home run call, my grandpa would look over at me and wink or give me a two-handed slap on the table. Uecker's voice will forever be ingrained in me with those special memories of my grandpa. And that is true of so many people that have called in, going back with Wilde and Tausch earlier today after this news broke earlier this morning. Certainly a sentiment that a lot of Brewers fans have felt over the last 50-plus years. And we welcome in right now to ESPN Wisconsin. He is the voice of the Chicago White Sox on our sister station, ESPN 1000 down there in Chicago. He is Len Casper, but of course, Len with roots right here in the state of Wisconsin, the city of Milwaukee. Len, thank you so much for jumping on with us today.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for asking. It's obviously a very sad day, not only in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, but really the world, and definitely the baseball world. Mr. Baseball could not have been a more appropriate moniker for Bob, and he'll be with us in spirit forever, but today's a very sad day.
Len, I want to go back to when you first got the job with the Brewers, and I don't know if your initiation was at Don and Charlie's like many's were, but that first dinner or breakfast, whatever it happened to have been with Bob, can you take us back to those days and what it was like kind of getting the stamp of approval from Bob that you would be joining the broadcast team?
Well, Bob was bigger than life in so many ways, and when I was just a young punk back in the mid-'90s, it was certainly an intimidating aura, but Bob made me feel very comfortable really from day one. Pat Hughes as well. They were the radio tandem when I started in Milwaukee, but nobody made me laugh harder than Bob on the air and certainly off the air. I actually texted Kent Sommerfeld earlier today, and I said, and I was serious, I said, you got to get that cough button to Cooperstown because it never failed Bob. And people who knew Bob well remember there were alternate broadcasts. One was on the air and the other was off the air, depending on who happened to be in the booth at that time. And, just behind the scenes, a couple of things stand out. When I went to Florida and was doing Marlins games on television, my wife and son were at the ballpark, and at the time, our son was 2, and they walked into the Brewers radio booth, and Bob handed my son a $10 bill, and I think Leo, my son, was looking at it like, am I supposed to eat this? I don't think he even knew what it was at the time, but it was very charming, and he treated my family great. And then just the talent, right? He was so self-deprecating about his playing career, but he played parts of 6 seasons during the golden era in the major leagues with some of the all-time greats and against some of those greats. That playing career became the fodder for his amazing comedy career. Johnny Carson basically said that he was the favorite guest and was on The Tonight Show, I think, over 70 times. He had his own sitcom, but at the end of the day, the thing he had the most passion for was being the radio voice of his hometown team. And I think that of all the things you think about in terms of Bob's legacy, that's where I go first. He loved Milwaukee. He loved the Brewers. And if there's one regret, it's that he wasn't able to call a World Series winner for the Brewers, even though they did have the trip to the World Series in '82, and obviously these last few years have been a lot of fun. But it would have been great for Bob to flash that World Series ring with his hometown team.
Yeah, and I think you felt that with the way the players, specifically Christian Yelich, talked after that Game 3 loss earlier this year. Talking with Len Casper, he is the voice of the Chicago White Sox on ESPN 1000, but of course has roots back here to Milwaukee and WTMJ. What did you learn from Bob that you carry with you today as a broadcaster?
I think the two big things were have fun. When you're doing local MLB broadcasts, it's a everyday thing, and the fans want to feel like you're their friend in the booth, whether it's radio or television. And it's don't pass up an opportunity to have fun on the air and laugh. You don't want it to be a math class. He never missed an opportunity to have fun on the air. I think more importantly for me, especially now that I'm back to my roots doing radio every day, is we often get too caught up in strategy and the statistics, which are numerous in our sport. But when you're doing radio, it's where's the ball, what's the count, what's the score, what's the inning, who's on base, who's batting, who's pitching, and you end up kind of repeating the same information over and over every 2 to 3 minutes, but you have to do it in a fresh way. You can't just say it the same way. And, Bob utilized space in the broadcast incredibly well. You could hear the ballpark sounds in the background. And it's a very old school way of doing it, but I think it's the correct way. And I think for the younger generations, and now that I'm getting a little older, I definitely appreciate that, because at the end of the day, when you're doing radio, guys, you're the eyes and ears of the listener. And so never straying too far from the nuts and bolts and the basics of what's actually happening at that moment. That's what it's all about. And Bob kind of stuck to that script while adding, obviously, his personality and his own unique flair to things. And sometimes not talking is the best choice. And I think Bob was very good at not overdoing it.
When you saw the list of folks that would either reach out or maybe pop in the booth in a city that you didn't expect to see somebody in, when you think back to all the people that wanted just a piece of Bob's time, and were there any of those that just jumped out to you, Len, that over the years that you're like, wait, he listens and he wants to spend time with Uke, and this person is interested in what we do? Sometimes we can just feel as, we're just baseball broadcasters, but a guy like Uke just transcended pop culture that everybody wanted a piece of him.
Yeah, it was everybody. Anyone who would find a way into the press box in the big leagues wanted to talk to Uke. And we don't have people like that. Vin Scully was certainly like that. The bigger than life kind of personality. And, Bob, I remember meeting Bob Costas in the press box at County Stadium. They were very close, and I've gotten to know Bob since. But he's probably the one that would stand out, that just running into Bob Costas, and he was just coming to hang out with his buddy Uke. So I know Norm Macdonald told a lot of stories about Uke and how he worked on the air, and all those stories are true. The funny thing is, Norm didn't have to embellish any of it, and it's just like truth is stranger than fiction, I guess, in a way. And I know I'm talking just to a lot of people who could probably kind of go through the way Bob would do the broadcast, and I go back to the days of, along with our producer, Kent Sommerfeld, and our engineer, good old semi-retired Mel Hilger. Mm-hmm. Like, he never mentioned Mel without referencing him as good old semi-retired. And then just the billboards, I remember in particular, the Wisconsin Dental Association read, and the tagline was, "The sign of a dentist who cares." But punctuation matters, and Bob took advantage of that, and he would say, "Brewers baseball brought to you by the Wisconsin Dental Association, the sign of a dentist who cares." And that's special, right? And as he would do that read more and more throughout the years, the "who cares" would just get more dismissive, but it worked, right? and that's the stuff that you can't teach. You have it or you don't.
Len Casper, voice of the White Sox, joining us here. Of course, roots back here to WTMJ in Milwaukee as well. Do you have a go-to Uke story? If anybody ever comes, oh man, give me a Uke story. Do you have a go-to one?
Oh, absolutely. When I was doing the afternoon sports with Jonathan Green and Phil Cianciola on WTMJ, I don't know how it came up, but the song Rock and Roll Part 2 that everybody knows, hey, There are no lyrics basically in the song. It's just every now and again you hear "Hey," but I thought we should come up with a version that has Uke's, "Hey, get up, get out of here." So I just it took me 5 minutes to do it, and we had fun with it for a couple of days. And my wife, Pam, who actually worked at the station at the time, told me this morning, and I didn't know it was her, but she actually snuck the tape to Bob for him to hear it. And a couple of days later, they're in Boston at Fenway Park, and I was in the studio, and someone said, "Hey, you got to come in the engineering room. There's a call from the Brewers radio booth." So I get on the phone. It's Ken Sommerfeld. He goes, "Hey, Uke wants to talk to you." And now I'm going, "Uh-oh, what did I do?" And Bob said, and I'll never forget it, "I thought we were friends." And then for the next 5 to 6 minutes berates me with every cuss word known to man about how I embarrassed him and blah, 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 blah. And then he paused, and I'm just like, I cannot speak. And he goes, "Nah, I'm just kidding." And it was that moment where I knew that I had finally kind of gotten into that, whatever that inner circle was, and he just got a kick out of that and laughed. Oh, gosh, he thought it was so funny. But when Bob spoke, he listened, and I think he knew that I would panic, and he milked it for all it was worth. It was great.
Did you get a nickname from him, Len?
I was Lenny. I was Len Casper to Bob, and I was proud of that. Most people call me Len, but Bob could call me whatever he wanted.
Amen to that. I feel the same way.
Len, I certainly appreciate the time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, jumping on and sharing your stories around Mr. Baseball.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Len. We'll see you in spring training.
You got it.
Len Casper, voice of the Chicago White Sox, of course, roots back here to WTMJ, long time with WTMJ. It's a great story. I had not heard that one before.
He's got more than that, too, I promise you.
Yes, certainly does. More of your stories that we'll share. Of course, we're still going to be joined by Adam McCalvy coming up, and we are going to be joined by Buster Olney, who will share some perspective on the passing of Mr. Baseball and Bob Uecker as we continue on ESPN Wisconsin.
Celebrating the life of the voice of Brewers baseball. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. You're listening to special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin. All day, every day. The Carbless talk and text line is open for you.
First off, there is not one team that's on the fringe that scares me.
800-990-3776. The Carbless talk and text line. This is more.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
That dog does not want to be petted.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Kevin Moret for Mentality. Most new Mentality clients are stuck running on just 1/3 of the free testosterone they need, and that's why nothing feels right. You're drained, frustrated, and stuck in a body that won't respond to diet or exercise. But it's not your fault. Mentality's doctors specialize in fixing the imbalance. When your free testosterone is restored, everything changes. Your strength, your energy, and drive all come roaring back. Start the year strong with our New Year's offer at mentalityhealth.com/radio. That's mentalityhealth.com/radio.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6759. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6759. That's 800-575-6759. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Homer here. I'm inviting you to join me starting August the 9th as we explore the many shades of Ireland with Colette Vacations, a 10-day journey filled with legendary views, historic expeditions, and unforgettable tales. Explore the historic city of Dublin, kiss the famous Blarney Stone, and stand on the spectacular cliffs of Moher. We'll also journey Ireland's breathtaking countryside and follow the stunning coastal route of the Ring of Kerry. We'll experience the daily life of an Irish family with a dairy farm visit and enjoy a taste or two at a historic whiskey distillery. We'll even stay overnight in a medieval castle. Join me for all of the experiences and so many more. All the details are online at ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com. ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com. Don't worry about the planning. Colette handles all of the details of the 10-day excursion. Your job, have the time of your life. Don't miss it. Visit ESPNMilwaukeeTravel.com or text Homer to 800-990-3776. The trip of a lifetime awaits.
Join the roar of 18,000 Bucks fans at Fiserv Forum and be a part of the slam dunks, game-changing plays, and electrifying victories live. Witness the edge-of-your-seat action and unforgettable moments as they happen. You don't want to miss this. Grab your calendar, handpick your favorite matchups, and secure your seats for Dame time in Milwaukee and every incredible moment that comes next at Bucks.com/tickets. That's Bucks.com/tickets.
All you have is one chance after an accident, one decision on who to call, one shot to get the help you need. Don't waste it on the one offer you get from your insurance company. Make the one call to Gruber Law Offices. It's the only one you'll need to make. Call us today. Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Rest in peace, Mr. Baseball. The voice of the Milwaukee Brewers, Bob Uecker, has passed away. Celebrate the life of a legend right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
Back in against Mesa, who is working from the windup. The 0-1 pitch. Swings, and there it is! A base hit into right center. He's done it. 3,000 for Robin.
I know not necessarily everybody appreciates this, but as somebody who has wanted to be a broadcaster for a long time, the fact that, we just heard after Robin Yount had one of the most historically significant moments in the history of the Brewers franchise, 3,000th hit back in 1992. How long was that Bob went without speaking?
It's
and
beautiful.
Just allowing the reaction of the crowd going crazy for that moment in County Stadium, for him to just be able to sit there and be a part of the moment is just special and unique.
I've got a couple extra clips here that we'll get to. Most of them are no shorter than a minute long because he uses the crowd and the applause and the sound of the baseball happening so well that you can't cut it short, because 30 seconds later he'll have a great one line to add to like a historic Brewers moment. It's incredible.
It's a craft that very few master. Everyone trains to do, like, lay out, let the crowd take it, that sort of thing. It's easy to say to do, but in practice, I don't know if people know this, but broadcasters can be egomaniacs at times. But sometimes you want to hear yourself and you want to deliver the call. You want to nail it. You want to keep going. Like, you know what? Sometimes the best thing to do is to shut up. And that's what Bob did. And I think part of that goes back to how we started this whole show, is that Bob played. Bob was in the show. He knows what the players wanted to hear. And quite frankly, what I think of too with Bob is the connection of generations, that players can always connect with one another, knowing that he played at the highest level. And I'm seeing all the guys roll out their tributes on social media now to all the current Brewers players, former Brewers players. Like Brent Suter just tweeted a great photo of him and Uke. And it goes beyond, broadcaster with the area here. Like, Uecker and the players were a beautiful relationship, too, and we all saw Yelly at the end of last season. We're going to talk to him a little bit later on tonight on WTMJ side. I've got my show from 8 to 10, but it's just like, man, he was in the clubhouse every day he could be. Everyone made time for him, and he felt like he was part of the team. Only thing short was wearing the sliding pants. That's it.
Well, so you mentioned that. I think of, there was a Sports Illustrated article, and I don't remember the specific year, but it's as that 2008 team, as they were starting to build up, right? Like the young guys were starting to make it to the major leagues. The Prince Fielders, Brawny, J.J. Hardy, Ricky Weeks, those guys are starting to make their way to the major leagues, and they're starting to make noise because of how good they are. And to the point of how connected Uecker was, and obviously Uecker was still traveling with the team back then. The one thing that I vividly remember from that article was the fact that he would play ping pong with those guys on the road. And there is a picture of him wearing he's out there shirtless playing ping pong. I don't know if they were in Florida. I don't know where they were, but he's shirtless playing ping pong outside with the guys. Like, that is the one thing I vividly remember about that Sports Illustrated piece. Like, this big breakthrough moment for the Brewers. And here is, 72-year-old Bob Uecker, shirtless, looking very good, by the way, shirtless, playing ping pong with the guys, because that's who he was ultimately in his heart. He was still one of the guys. And the connections he made, not just with that team, but with the team after, and the team after, to the point where, Dom, in 2018, they voted him a full playoff share, which meant that he got $122,000 that the player said, nope, Uecker is one of the guys. He deserves that money. And then, of course, Uecker wouldn't keep it for himself. He donated it to a number of different charities that meant a lot to him back in 2018. But just the connection that he had with it's not just one specific player. It's so many different players throughout the generations of Brewers.
Yeah, I think of that photo, too. There was, in that 2018 season, there was a Bob Uecker flight, meaning the team dressed up like Uecker to get on a plane to go play somewhere. And that was the day that we saw the shirt, the photo from Sports Illustrated, and everyone's wearing the shirt underneath the wild sports coats and everything, and Eddie Cedar and Council. And I even see a photo here from Adam McCalvy, who we're going to catch up with here in just a little bit too. And Matt Arnold's in the background in a crazy Bob Uecker type shirt. And it's just like, man, that's not normal. I can't say that enough. Now, teams obviously love their broadcasters, and everyone understands the roles and that sort of thing. But to this level, I mean, it takes years, obviously, to get to that. But this level of love and admiration is not normal, no matter how many years you spend in a single market. And it works. It's a two-way street. They love Bob. Bob loved them. And it also helped that the city and all of baseball loved Bob, and it just helped influence and fuel everything that created the star that was Bob Uecker in that 2018 team. And obviously one game short and everything, but for them to sit down and say full share for Bob Uecker, didn't throw a pitch, didn't swing a bat, didn't do anything, kind of lead morale officer, if you will. And man, that's going to be one of my lasting memories, too, of that 2018 team. I'm thinking of Robin. We played the 3,000th hit. Obviously, they were great friends in the 80s and 90s and still are all the way to his passing. And I even think of Craig Counsell today, man. I mean, think about Counsell's entire life has been around Bob Uecker in some capacity. I think of everything. The millions of people that Bob touched, and the few lucky ones that got to be a little bit closer than others, they're feeling a lot of pain today.
This coming in from Justin, texting in 800-990-3776. Bob Uecker's passing hits hard. For years, I spent my childhood summer nights listening to his voice on my bedside radio alarm clock, painting the game so vividly you could see it through the static. He was more than a broadcaster. He was the soundtrack to my summers and a connection to the game I love. His humor, warmth, and storytelling will be deeply missed. Rest easy, Mr. Baseball. Again, a sentiment that is shared by many, and you can share yours as well by texting in or calling in at 800-990-3776. Dom just mentioned it. We are going to be talking with Adam McCalvy from Brewers.com as he'll share his thoughts on Bob Uecker and Mr. Baseball coming up next on ESPN Wisconsin.
Celebrating the life of the legendary Bob Uecker. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. This is special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin.
Hi, this is Michelle Voskel, CPA and team member at Right Choice Tax Resolution Services. We have recently talked with a number of new clients who told us the same story. They had a tax situation and went with one of those national firms with the TV and radio ads. You know the ones. They guarantee they can settle your tax owed for pennies on the dollar. They take a $10,000 fee up front, and then you never hear from them again. We are a local firm and just want to help you resolve your situation so you can get on with your life. Don't let your bank account get wiped out, your paycheck or Social Security check get garnished, or a lien put on your house so you can't sell it or get refinanced. The state can even put a hold on your occupational license. What happens when the hospital finds out your nursing license is suspended or you can't sell insurance anymore? Make the right choice and call 844-222-1192 or visit rightchoicetax.us today. Schedule a free meeting so we can talk and come up with a solution to solve your situation now. If you wait, it will not go away. The first meeting is free. Call now, 844-222-1192, or visit rightchoicetax.us.
Looking for a totally rad flavor adventure, brochachos? Look no further than Surfer Boy Pizza as seen in Stranger Things. Each mouth-watering variety contains rich tomato sauce, delicious mozzarella cheese, and a gnarly range of toppings. The crust is crispy on the outside and airy on the inside. You'll think it was hand-tossed by the Surfer Boy Pizza dudes themselves. Look for it in the freezer aisle at your local store and buckle up your taste buds with Surfer Boy Pizza.
Get organized with a new Dakota Closet system at Menards. Dakota Closets are versatile and can be installed in any room, from home offices and laundry rooms to walk-in or reach-in closets, and so much more. Use the You Create Closet Planner, available in-store or online, to design a Dakota Closet system that maximizes your space and matches your style. And don't forget to check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Bring in the new year at your local Milwaukee Metro Region Cunis Auto Group dealerships. If it's the new year, it's time for a new ride. So plan on driving into 2025 in style at a Cunis Auto Group dealership near you. Your Milwaukee Metro Region Cunis dealerships feature America's best-selling brands from both Buick and GMC, all at nearby locations in Oak Creek and Greenfield. During January, every remaining new 2024 vehicle plus thousands of select pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs are all being discount priced to sell. We've got to make immediate room for hundreds of incoming new 2025, as well as hundreds of fresh trade-ins from the holiday season. We're paying top values on all trades, no matter what the mileage or condition. Don't forget to check out individual dealership websites for pre-owned vehicles super specials. Plus, January service specials on everything from oil changes, tires, and brakes. Ring in big New Year savings at your nearby Milwaukee Metro Region Cunis Auto Group dealerships, or shop online at shopcunis.com.
Network Health knows that good health knows no age limit. That's why they offer superior local health plans for individuals of all generations. Whether you're a young professional, a growing family, or enjoying your golden years, plan is designed to meet your unique healthcare needs. For more about Network Health's business, individual, or Medicare Advantage plans, call Eric Pearson, Saganiac Planning, 262-783-6161. Eric, 262-783-6161. Saganiac Planning, a name synonymous with employee benefits and top-notch service. The Saganiac Planning Marquette Records. Highest scoring team in Marquette history, 84 points per game, 70 years ago. 1954-55, don't ask me why, I'm old, but not that old. At 84 a game, they were good. 24-3, won 22 in a row. Over 100 points in 3 games, a high of 113. Jack Nagel, the coach, Terry Rand, leading scorer and rebounder. 70 years ago, 84 points per game. Saganiac Planning, a name synonymous with employee benefits and top-notch service.
Celebrating the life of the voice of Brewers baseball. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. You're listening to special coverage on ESPN Wisconsin.
1-0, swinging, fly ball, right center, on the warning track, at the wall, leaping and caught by Lorenzo Cain, and this one is over. Oh, baby! What a finish!
Gabe Neitzel, Dominic Cotroneo with you as we remember Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, passing earlier today at the age of 90, and we now welcome in from Brewers.com, Adam McCalvy. Adam, thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your thoughts about Bob Uecker.
Well, of course. I mean, look,
part of this is for Dom, right? Dom knows Uke and was with him and was in the booth and working alongside him. And I'm thinking about Dom today. I'm thinking about Jeff Levering and Lane Grindle and Josh Mauer and Kent Sommerfeld and all the people who got Uke through the last couple of years, helped Uke through the last couple of years, because this has been really difficult. And I'm not sure the full story has been told yet about what Uke went through health-wise and in how he had to grind to get on the air. And I think of that last game, bad outcome, but what a gift to have had Uke one last game. I've been thinking about that a lot today.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Really appreciate you making some time. I know it's a busy day for you, too. And, you do have an impossible task, really. You and all of the beat writers and everybody that had a chance to interact with Bob, that, your obits and your memories and what you put pen to paper, if you will, are going to be the ones that people really want to connect with because you saw them on a daily basis. The New York Times can't capture it the same way. The LA Times can't capture it the same way. But Brewers.com and the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, our teammates over there, it's just when you sit down and actually had to type these words out that you had to type and putting together some great pieces on Brewers.com and some trips down memory lane, what were your emotions sitting down knowing him as well as you knew him?
Dang it, Dom.
I got you. I've been fighting it all day, man. I've
been good all day. I've been good all day. I won't care more about a story I write, probably ever. Because he brought so much happiness to people. And I was talking to Bud Selig about this, guys. Think about 1970. Uke comes in the booth in 71. The sting of the Braves leaving was still very, very strong. Bud talks about that a lot. And who connected this community to the team that we all now, for me, I make my living off people loving baseball. It was Uke. Mm-hmm. And it's a gift. The way, I'm not going to be the first to say, his greatest gift is the way he connects with people and disarms people and makes you laugh with this turn of phrase and turn of thought that you don't see coming. The Sports Illustrated thing with the Speedo is one of my favorites.
We were just talking about
it. Dan Larea, their traveling secretary, when they made those shirts, was kind enough to throw me this triple XL shirt, and I've been wearing it today. It's Uke in a Speedo. He took a lot of business, let's say, from the boys when that appeared in the pages of Sports Illustrated, and he's talking about it without even having to think about it. He just goes, "Oh yeah, my swimsuit issue," which at the time when the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue was a big thing. It was the most hilarious turn of phrase, and it came so naturally to him. And what I like about Bob is what you heard on the air as a fan, and what you saw in Belvedere and Major League and the Miller Lite ads. That's the Uke we got every day on the top step of the dugout during BP. And I've said this for years, I could cover the next 20 World Series champions. And the highlight of my career, no matter how long I'm fortunate to go, will be those times standing with Uke on the top step and talking about the Carol Burnett show or hosting SNL, or the crazy stuff he did with Hank Aaron, or Johnny Logan, or the stuff he would do with Bud. Who else calls he's Mr. Selig to Robin Yount all these years later. He's Al to you. He's special. He's different. He's ours. That's what explains why we're all hurting so bad today, is he did all this stuff. George Steinbrenner tried to hire him away. He could have had a TV talk show. He could have done more sitcoms. He could have done more movies. And he always came back here. He belonged to the city of Milwaukee. That's how it felt. And that is the coolest thing about Uke. And he didn't have to do it, but it's what he wanted to do. And he was here till the end.
Adam McCalvy, Brewers beat writer, MLB.com, Brewers.com. Check out all the great stuff they have, and Adam has written over there. Because he's from Milwaukee, because he is from Wisconsin, I mean, I feel that, a lot of places have the connection with their broadcaster. Baseball just lends itself to that being an everyday thing. But because, and you touched on it, I think, a little bit there, Adam, but because not only did he do it here in Milwaukee for 50 plus years on the radio, but he's from here. Do you think that added to the connection that all these Brewers fans had with Uecker over these years?
Undoubtedly. I mean, look, we are this little town, smallest market in the big leagues. Maybe we're a little provincial from now and then. I mean, I'm not going to put thoughts into people's minds, but maybe we get a little bit of a chip on our shoulder about some of our larger neighbors, like, say, the team with ivy on the walls down south. And Uecker was like this special thing about this place, and he was the most Milwaukee guy. And, the way he made a career of kind of being self-deprecated, Uecker was a good ball player. He hit 200 in the big leagues, but he played in the big leagues, coming from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which puts him in a very, very small category of players. And, but he was able to kind of poke fun at himself in a way that fit the city just right. And listen to him talk about, listen to him talk about growing up here and playing games. And, there were these sort of put together sponsored teams by local businesses, and the kids would come out and play, and they would all have ringers, and these city leagues were like a big deal when Uecker was growing up. And his roots here go so deep. He tells stories. He grew up sort of on the near north side of Milwaukee. Well, he was born in Sherman Park, but then his school was over on the north side somewhere, and it was near Borchert Field, and he would go over there and look through the knotholes at the minor league Milwaukee Brewers and see those games. He is sort of the history of baseball in this town. It's Bob Uecker. And I think that's why the connection runs so deep.
It's beyond deep. I think it's just ingrained. You're from Milwaukee, and Bob Uecker's your cousin. It's just natural connection to the Brewers and to Bob. And I'm reading through all of the classic Uecker stories. Again, all of this is on Brewers.com, and you guys have done a great job, you and your editors, of sharing everything that has been written in the past or reissuing some stuff. And I just think of, in the story I was telling earlier, of when his first game back after the heart surgery and the thunderous applause he had for returning to that when they showed him on the Jumbotron for that game. And you alluded to it a moment ago, Adam, but what he was fighting privately the last couple of years, health-wise, he didn't want public, sort of recognition for what he was going through. He would still, obviously have his bouts with, as it was revealed today, with his cancer bouts, but what he was privately doing because he didn't want anyone to worry. I think that release of everyone cheering for him after the heart surgery, that he was going to be okay. And I was just texting Lane Grindle, and he said it perfectly. I really thought he was going to be immortal. And that's what today really feels like. It's surreal.
The way Jeff Levering said it was, you always thought Uecker was Superman, and he'd find a way to go on forever. And none of us go on forever. That's life. Jeff really got me today. He told me the story about the final game and how Uecker wanted to get on the air that night and how the ending was nothing anybody wanted. And Jeff thought, you listen back now with a different ear maybe, and you hear Uecker signing off, and, he kind of kept talking like he didn't want to say goodbye. He didn't want to sign off. I know I said this already. I just think what a gift that we had him, and what a gift that we had one last game. And let's also, in all of this, because he made us laugh, right? I grew up here. I know how it is, where you almost would root for the bad game because you get the Uecker game then. We all know that. He was a great broadcaster. He's in the Hall of Fame as the winner of what was then called the Frick Award, because he's a great broadcaster, not because he's funny. And he was a great broadcaster to the end. And I've also been thinking today about what a gift it is that we have 90-year-old Bob Uecker calling 20-year-old Jackson Churrio's first big league home run. And let's see what becomes of Jackson Chourio over the years. But I have a feeling that that's going to be something we all look back on and kind of cherish, a bridging generations. I mean, that's stretching it because there's 7-year difference. That's like multiple generations. But what a special thing that is. And we had it here in this little town. We had our guy who was this kind of superstar broadcaster and made us laugh. And we had him for all those years. You know, I'm sad. Everybody's sad. But I don't think there's anybody ever who's crammed more into 90 years of living than did Bob Uecker. So I'm sad, but I'm also like happy we had him.
Perfectly said.
Well said, Adam. I don't think anybody can put it any better. So we appreciate the time. We appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Adam McCalvy, Brewers beat reporter. And again, check out all the great stuff. A lot of it up there right now at Brewers.com. We are going to hear from Buster Olney from ESPN, ESPN.com. We do that coming up next on ESPN Wisconsin.
Rest in peace to a legend. Bob Uecker has passed away at the age of 90. Celebrate the life of Mr. Baseball right here on ESPN Wisconsin. What happens when you mix a 3-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year with a Packers Hall of Famer?
I'm not going to get into the Kringle turnover game, so that's what it needs to be. I think his legs. Yeah.
Wilde and Tausch, presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Like the pastry. Are you guys being serious? You guys can't put two and
I got it. I did not get it.
They don't call themselves Racine Danish turnover.
Sorry. Sometimes I wonder about you too, man.
Catch him from 9 to noon right here on 94.5 ESPN, the Wisconsin On Demand app, and at ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube.
Winning in the NFL comes down to the basics, blocking and tackling. In retirement, the certainty of protection and income are the keys to success. And as a former NFL player myself, I have experience with both. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons. Having played on winning teams with the Steelers and Falcons, studying game films helped me mentally prepare for the challenges ahead. Now I star in a new Hollywood documentary called The Retirement Deception to help you visualize and prepare for your fourth quarter of life. You see, you don't retire on your nest egg, but rather the income it can produce. This film shows you exactly how to protect your retirement from stock market drops and produce more income than you thought possible. And it's free for you to view. Call 855-620-1801 right now for your free streaming code to watch The Retirement Deception. Don't risk your retirement savings at the goal line. You don't need to be risky to have a winning strategy. Call today to speak with an all-pro retirement specialist to get your free streaming code to watch The Retirement Deception. Call today. 855-620-1801. That's 855-620-1801. MitchLyonsWealth.com. Your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Fingers come in different sizes.
It's one of the first things you learn as a jeweler.
And a ring can only be sized up or down a little bit.
Which means it's a really good thing to know your ring size.
And it's an even better thing to know their ring size.
This is why we're announcing
the Ring Size Registry at Kessler's.
We're doing it as a public service. It's completely free.
Free. Isn't that a great price?
Here's how it works.
Just drop into any Kessler's Diamonds location and tell one of the owners that you'd like to know your ring size.
Kessler's is an employee-owned company, so whoever greets you at the door is an owner.
They'll determine your ring sizes and add them to our Ring Size Registry.
Then, when someone wants to know your ring size...
Because, you know, maybe they want to surprise you.
All they have to do is call or stop into Kessler's.
Surprises can be fun, don't you think?
We're happy to do this for you, even if you don't buy a ring from us.
But after you take a look around, we think you probably will. Visit KesslersDiamonds.com for a location near you and register your ring sizes today.
Wisconsin is still cattle country. And that's why Bunzel's chose to stay close to home to hand-select the finest beef. Quality goes into everything they do, from Bunzel's expansive array of meats, homemade specialty sausages, and their award-winning beef jerky. It just isn't a proper holiday meal without Bunzel's top-quality cuts on the dinner table. Tasting is believing. Visit Bunzel's at 90th and Burleigh or bunzels.com.
Hey ESPN Wisconsin fans, Brad Nortman here. Whether you're an athlete like me or just want to feel your best, Quintessa's new wellness center in Brookfield is your go-to for peak performance. With services like hormone therapy, IV drip therapy, medical weight loss, and anti-aging, Quintessa has everything to keep your body running at its best. It's not just about game day, it's about every day. Check out myquintessa.com/wellness and see how Quintessa can help you stay at the top of your game. Your body deserves it.
Gabe Neitzel from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy here. Don't let the chilly weather end your golf season. X Golf and American Family Field is open all year round. They've got innovative and accurate golf simulators, all overlooking left field at AmFam Field. Enjoy daily lunch specials or have an outing with your friends and take in X Golf's full bar and food menus. X Golf AmFam Field is even offering golf lessons by a PGA pro. Everyone is welcome at X Golf AmFam. Book your sim today. XGolfAmFamField.com. I'll see you out there.
Rest in peace, Mr. Baseball. The voice of the Milwaukee Brewers, Bob Uecker, has passed away. Celebrate the life of a legend right here on ESPN Wisconsin.
Again, thank you to Adam McCalvy for joining us here on ESPN Wisconsin. I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Dominic Cotroneo as we remember the great Bob Uecker passing away at the age of 90. You can still share your thoughts, 800-990-3776 on the Carbless Talk and text line. And the perspective that Adam just brought to us, I think, is something that a lot of fans can carry with them. I was texting Dom with a buddy earlier today. Again, a college buddy of mine that, just like me, grew up, has lived his entire life basically in the state of Wisconsin. And his sentiment was, man, I wish we would have, gotten a goodbye broadcast. I wish we could have gotten a goodbye, a farewell broadcast that we would have known. And I don't know if that was something that Bob would have ever wanted, but B, what Adam just told us, man, it didn't end the way we wanted last year. But how fortunate are we that we got one last Bob Uecker game in Game 3 of the playoffs last season?
Yeah, I mean, as folks remember, he didn't work Games 1 and Games 2. You can put 2 and 2 together as to why, especially now that the cancer diagnosis has been revealed to the world. But Game 3, he had to work. It sounded great. And Levering had the inning when Jake and Sal went back-to-back, and then to end it, to have, the call that Ueck gets is the homer by Alonso. But I just think of all the times that Ueck maybe was playing hurt that we didn't know about. That was on the air, and he was never asking for a pity party. Was never. That's part of the reason why I probably never wanted that final send off. And Brian Anderson on television told this story earlier on MLB Network that Ueck used to joke that you guys are going to light a candle and carry me out of here one day. Just like very off the cuff. Like, he never wanted to quit. He really wanted to keep on going. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Well, again, I think that's evidence of, you mentioned his heart thing, right? Like he could have easily decided, you know what, guys, I'm going to retire. I'm going to walk away. I don't know if he could. This was such a part of who he was in the game of baseball. And this is no offense to a lot of the great numbers that are up there at AmFam Field and Robin Yount and Paul Molitor, but the greatest Brewer never played a single inning for the Milwaukee Brewers. And so many fans feel that way, and that's why he's got his name up there right next to those greats like Robin, like Paul Molitor, like Raleigh Fingers, like Hank Aaron, because, Bob is the greatest Brewer of them all for what he meant to the community and Brewers fans.
I think back a couple of years ago for the 1982 reunion. I know there's been a handful of reunions, but the 40th anniversary of that one a couple of years ago, everybody went straight to Ueck. Everybody wanted to see Ueck because they're all over the place, and some guys are still in Milwaukee, right? And some guys have moved along, and we still see Gorman come to the ballpark every now and then. We see Gumby come to the ballpark every now and then, and it's always, I got to go see Ueck. I got to go see Ueck. I got to say hi to him. And later tonight, I'm going to have another show of my own from 8 to 10, and we'll have some more reaction as well. We'll have reaction from players, too. Ryan Braun, Christian Yelich, Brandon Woodruff, principal owner Mark Atanasio. I'll have reaction from Bob Costas. The the reach is remarkable. And it's just the tip of the iceberg of people you can talk to talk about Bob Uecker and all the people who have spent a little bit of time with us today, sharing their memories. We're seeing them all, I promise. We're putting together a piece on WTMJ.com of all the listener stories. And I think the more the merrier. So send them in. And I've just really enjoyed listening and reading these quotes from people who've been here for listening to him for his entire career. And I think that's what a sentence to say. 50-plus years of a friend of Bob Uecker.
Well, and that's the thing, because, again, we've talked about this, the everyday nature of baseball, of that connection that you feel with a baseball broadcaster. And for Bob, Adam mentioned it. Well, sometimes you would root for those bad games so you could get the Bob Uecker stories. Let me assure you, as a kid who grew up in the 90s here, those games were not few and far between. They would happen way too often, but you would still tune in and not want to miss anything because of how good Bob was. And then you think of the number of different fantastic Bob broadcasters that got to work next to Bob, not just the current ones that we have going now with Jeff and Lane and obviously BA has a great connection, even though he's on the TV side. But you think of, just down in Chicago, and Pat Hughes has been there forever, but Pat was a former broadcasting partner, and Corey Provis, and, so many of these great different broadcasters that have been that number two guy to Ueck and now have gone on to have their own great baseball careers at different major league teams. It's unbelievable the number of people that he got to work with and were a part of the broadcast teams with him.
Yeah. How's this been for you? I mean, you've said it. You grew up listening to him. This has been really cathartic for me. And, I'm still going to keep talking about it. You're going to still keep talking about it. And I just, man, it's sinking in. I fought back tears with that. I've been fighting back tears all day. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's been tough trying to fight those back and trying to keep it together. Because, like I said, even though I never knew Bob, you felt like you did. With all those years, that was, no matter what was going on with your life, there was a constant that at 7:10 on a Wednesday night, I could tune in and Bob was going to be there. And that was always a constant, in your life if you grew up here in the state of Wisconsin. Buster Olney, ESPN senior writer, baseball analyst, joining us now. Buster, thank you so much for the time. I wish we got to chat under better circumstances, my friend, but when I say the name Bob Uecker, what comes to mind for you?
Well, the funniest guy in baseball history, and the person who, among so many stars, made the greatest speech at baseball's Hall of Fame when he was inducted in 2003. He was, he was one of one. There's never been anybody like him. There's never ever going to be anybody like him again. I mean, he just was so beloved within the sport. And he just made the game so fun. And, I didn't really know him that well personally, but man, today talking with people, texting Craig Counsell, folks who knew him a lot better than I did, they are really going to miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. Buster, this is Dom Catronio. Thanks for making the time with us. And I know more of the American League side right when the Brewers had switched over to the National League, so you didn't get a lot of time interacting when you were covering with whether it was Baltimore or New York or wherever. But I'm curious if Bob ever came up with George, with Steinbrenner, if you ever had conversations, because we all know the rumors that he tried to lure him away, and that so many years passed. Like, was he still bitter about it? Did he still really want Uecker to come over to New York?
So the first time I ever heard that was earlier today, that George, but it absolutely fits. I'm sure that during the Miller Lite commercial, during that era, that was something that, would have interested George, because George absolutely believed in stars, in the marquee, and there was no bigger media star within the sport in the mid-'80s than Bob Uecker. And so you could see George making a big pitch, thinking that he was going to get the best announcer in baseball, the most well-known announcer in baseball. And it also fits, based on what I've heard from other people about Bob, that Bob would, talk about it, maybe even agree to it verbally, and then at some point back away saying, I just can't do it. I just can't leave Milwaukee.
Buster Olney joining us here on ESPN Wisconsin. Buster, with some of the people you've talked to today and even over the years, do you have a favorite Bob Uecker story that you've heard?
Boy, well, the one today that I got feedback. Craig Counsell, I asked him in a text, when he first remembers meeting Uecker, given his own background. He said he met him when he was 10 years old, and he talked about how on a daily basis when he was managing the Brewers, that was the best half hour each day because they would do the pregame show, and Bob would be down there, and they would get a chance to talk. That to me was so heartfelt, and it reflects a lot of what other people have said, whether it's Tim Kirkjian, players you see on social media talking about, what a special connection they had with him.
It's been a ride of emotion for everybody here in Milwaukee, but I think of, really the scope. I mean, I just saw a photo tweeted by Adam Sandler of him taking a selfie with Bob Uecker. I mean, I think that's a great way to kind of put it, that the scope of Bob Uecker is well beyond our little baseball world that we all know. And I don't know if there's a way to put that into words, given the status and the Johnny Carson and the list goes on. Is there a way that I think of when Paul Skeens even requested to meet with him earlier this year? I don't know if you had seen that photo. This dude transcends not just baseball, and obviously Paul's a star, but it goes beyond that.
Yeah, so Tom Rinaldi did a great piece for Fox last year before one of the Brewer games, the broadcast of the Brewers, and he sat down with Bob and he asked him, okay, who's the most famous person you have in your phone? You have the person's digits, and Bob Uecker has everybody, right? As you said, people are coming out of the woodwork today with stories, with anecdotes. And Uecker looked at him in his famous deadpan and goes, "Me, I'm the most famous person in my phone." And then he pointed out that when people passed on, he kept them in his phone. And I can't even imagine all the people that Bob would have had in his phone, because you say people sought him out. It was like an experience. Part of the reason why I didn't really establish a relationship with him was because I was always like in awe of the guy. And I'm like, he doesn't need some dopey sports writer bothering him.
That's pretty much how I felt as a pre- and post-game guy here sometimes, even though I was technically his teammate. But the funny thing, too, with those names that are in the phone and everyone that's reached out and everybody that has something to say about Bob, he made time for everybody. And I know he would have made time for you, too, Buster. I can promise you that. But when I think of the life that he lived and the current players that still understand it, like we're seeing tributes from the current Brewers as well, I think of some of the veterans. Like I remember Adam Wainwright came up to the booth a couple of years ago, and Ueck made Adam read a Miller Lite ad. As you can imagine, Wainwright, Budweiser, St. Louis country. That's the kind of guy this guy was, and the memories that I'll take with him.
Oh, part of my, today has been about going back and watching those clips as Mr. Baseball with Johnny Carson. And the first episode that Uecker was ever on, you could tell first off that Carson had no idea who he was. And then right away, Johnny has a hard time keeping it straight. He's just laughing out loud. And I'm sure after that show was over, he's like, bring that guy back on. And he had, over 100 appearances on Carson during the course of his career. Norm Macdonald telling stories about him. And as I've mentioned, we've seen some great Hall of Fame speeches through the years, really. Some heartfelt, words from all-time great players. Nobody's close to Uecker's speech, and all Uecker did was to go out there and try to make people laugh. And so there are cutaways of Willie Mays and Eddie Murray and other stars like wiping their eyes because they were laughing so hard. And as my colleague Tim Kirkjian pointed out today, he did it all off the cuff.
Yep.
He did this great 20 minutes. It was unbelievable. I would encourage everybody to go and find that on YouTube. Bob Uecker's Hall of Fame speech from 2003.
Yeah, and you think of Buster in Bob's career. He played with Warren Spahn, some great like that, and then got to call Jackson Churrio's first career home run. That's how long Bob's baseball career spanned it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, what a life lived, what an impact. We should all, hope for an experience and an impact that Bob Uecker had.
Buster, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective on Bob. We certainly appreciate it here in Milwaukee.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Buster.
Buster Olney, ESPN senior writer, baseball analyst, joining us here on ESPN Wisconsin. We've gone over our time. KBN, I'm sure, will continue to take your calls. They'll continue to take your texts on that Carbless Talking text line. Dom, thank you so much for jumping in with us today.
Thank you, Gabe. Thanks for having me.
KBN coming up next on ESPN Wisconsin.
Homer on the pitch.